Hey there, what is up you guys? I am Jerry and welcome back to the channel, The Chicago Griller. This is the show where I share my favorite tips, tricks, and recipes for the Weber Q. If you think that I can help you out, hit the like button and subscribe. For those of you who tune in regularly, you know that I now own three Weber Qs. I have this Weber Q 1200, I have a Weber Q 2000 that I have modified to have a temperature gauge, and I even now have a charcoal Weber Q, the very rare Char Q. So obviously I think very highly of the Q series, but I also will admit there is a little bit of a learning curve involved with these cookers. So today on the channel I thought I would share 5 mistakes that I have personally made with these Weber Qs. Now, to be clear, these aren't general grilling mistakes, such as remember to preheat your grill before cooking. No. These are 5 specific mistakes that you'll make with the Weber Q series. Being aware of these specific Weber Q mistakes and how to correct them will really help elevate your game a lot quicker. So, let's get started. The very first mistake can happen during the shopping process. The mistake that I made was I didn't realize there was such a wide range of models available or trim levels available within these models. To begin, there is the Q1000 and 1200, which is the smallest of the bunch. I would say this model line is good for a household with 1 to 2 people, or if you plan on carrying this camping a lot. Then there is the Q2000 and 2200 series, which is the middle size in the line. This size is good for 2 voracious eaters or a smaller family of 4. And then there is the Q3200, aka the family Q, which I would recommend for a family of 4 very hungry humans or someone who holds a lot of larger gatherings. Now, as I said, there are also several trim levels within these models. You'll notice that the standard model numbers are 1000 or 1200 or 2000 or 2200. The 1000 series is the base model, and it comes with a push button starter as well as no temperature gauge on the dome. However, when you upgrade to the X200 series, you now have an electric starter and a temperature gauge built into the dome. I don't think the upgrade for electric starter is worth that much, but the lid thermometer is pretty clutch. I ended up drilling a hole in the lid of my Q2000 and installing an aftermarket one. It really wasn't that difficult of a process, but doing so does void your warranty, so you might as well just buy it from the start, especially since the price premium between the 1000 model and the X200 series is only $20 US. So again, if both models are available to you, you might as well buy the slightly higher tier right from the get-go. The second mistake that I made with the Weber Q was when I first got the grill, the first cook I did with it was I cooked with the lid open. Why did I do this? I did this because I think when you go to like larger festivals or tailgates, you see a lot of people cooking on open flames with very powerful setups. So you see them cooking outside with the food on full display. So naturally, when you come back home, you try to replicate it that way. Well, you know what? Weber Q doesn't really work like that. It does have a nice burner, and it's strong enough to really heat up the grates. However, you do lose a lot of heat when this lid is open. So always cook with the lid shut. When you do that, the heat comes on up, and because of the shape of the lid, it really comes up and around your food and cooks it thoroughly. Not all grills work like that, so it's important to know that is very specific to the Weber Q. You may need to relearn the timings of some of the dishes that you cook regularly, but you'll quickly get the hang of it after a few cooks or watching some of the videos on my channel. The third mistake that people make when they buy the Weber Q, and one that I made myself, was they rely too much on these 1-pound gas canisters. And it's not really a surprise because out of the box, it is pitched as a portable grill, and these canisters thread right into the back of the grill. Now, they are great for camping, but quite frankly, I don't take this out into the woods very often, nor do I take them out tailgating. So these 1 pound gas canisters I found only last about 3 to 4 hours on the small Weber Q. On my mid-size Weber Q, I only get about 2 to 3 hours. So it's not the most economical option. So if your Q is going to be staying at home most of the time, you really should purchase the adapter hose and hook it up to a larger tank. It'll pay for itself in no time. And as an added bonus, you no longer have the constant stress of always trying to time how much gas you have left in one of these canisters before your flame goes out. So that in itself is worth it. Now, speaking of gas, that segues nicely to the 4th mistake that people make with their Weber Qs, and a mistake that I have personally made. Now, one of the biggest flaws with the Weber Q series is that there are no flavor riser bars that protect the burner tubes. So grease and drippings and fat spill right onto the burner. And with that, it kind of gets caked on over time, and the performance really starts to be impacted. You may see this in the form of hot and cool zones on your grill, or sometimes the burner tube might just outright not light up at all. You might think your grill is broken, but it's really a pretty simple fix. I have a more detailed video on this that you could check out in the link above, but there are 3 troubleshooting steps that you go through. 1, you could simply take a brush and scrape the burner tubes clean. This will knock off any larger debris. You could also take a paper clip and poke out all the individual holes. This will knock out some of the finer debris. And if all else fails, you could actually remove the entire burner tube, soak it in some water, and give it a nice cleaning. Doing so will almost certainly get your burner tube running like new again. And again, I think people give up on this model of grill too quickly because I see a lot of them available on Facebook Marketplace for cheap. I think it's simply because the burners are starting to get clogged and people don't know or are too lazy to fix them. Don't make that mistake. The 5th and final mistake that people, including myself, have made with the Weber Q is thinking that this is just a tailgating grill and that it's not very versatile. For the longest time, I was only doing burgers and steaks on it. But in reality, you could cook almost anything you want. By accessorizing or using a trick to set it up for indirect grilling, you really open up this grill to a world of possibilities. For example, I am now doing whole roasts on it, like chicken or duck. I can even do some cast iron skillet dishes, like deep dish pizza. And I've even made some more exotic items, like Japanese pancakes, aka okonomiyaki. Really, there are only 2 things that I have not been able to figure out on this Weber Q, and that is how to get a beer can chicken in there. You know, there's just not enough room for a beer can chicken to stand up. And 2, I've not really figured out how to do brisket. The temperature doesn't get quite low enough to do that low and slow brisket cook. But for everything else, you name it, and I could probably figure out a method to pull it off on the Q. So there you go, guys. Those are 5 mistakes that I have personally made with the Weber Q and are common mistakes that beginners may make with the Weber Q. Let me know in the comments section down below if there are any other tips or mistakes you think I should pass along to other folks watching this channel. Thank you very much, as always, for joining me today. As always, if you found this helpful, hit the like button and subscribe. Thanks again for watching. I will see you all again next week with a new episode. Bye now.